candidates with us, and I'm just going to start at the end with Mr. Watkins. Everyone's going to get 1.5 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having this event. My name is Steve Watkins, and I'm the political outsider in the race. And what that means is I've never held office before. In fact, I've never even run for office before. See, I'm an engineer, I'm a builder, I'm a businessman. I grew my outfit from 3 people to 470 people operating in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm the first person to attempt both the Iditarod and Mount Everest in the same year. I was in the military. I served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and then was in Iraq as a contractor. I was a paratrooper and an Army Ranger, as well as a scholar. My degrees are from West Point, MIT, and Harvard. I believe in small government, low taxes, minimal regulation, peace through military strength, the free market economy. I believe in the gift of life and the Second Amendment. So if you're completely satisfied with the state legislature, you're in luck. You've got a lot of candidates to choose from. But if you think we can do better and that we must do better, then you're not alone. See, we knock on about 1,000 doors a day, and resounding messages that people want the swamp drained by an outsider. That hasn't gone unnoticed, and we've received some flack. That's just because we're doing well. Don't believe the fake news. I'm here to serve. I've been serving my whole life. Thanks so much.
Good evening. It's good to see you guys here. We always get a good crowd in Ottawa. It feels like a legislative coffee almost, except we're missing Representative Fidenchuck here. I'm Karen Tyson, candidate for 2nd District Congress and your state senator. So most of you know me. You know I work hard, I work diligently. My husband and I are 5th generation Kansans. We own and operate Tyson Ranch in Lynn County. My husband was born here in Memorial Hospital. We have ties to the community. We do a lot of shopping here, so we notice your sales tax. We appreciate you guys very much. And I'm a software engineer by trade. I have a bachelor's in mathematics from K-State, bachelor's in computer science from K-State, and for you KU fans, my master's in engineering management from KU. I've had the opportunity to work from small mom and pop startups to international corporations. And one of the projects I worked on most notably was space shuttle support at NASA. Yes, I was a software engineer for NASA. It was a great job, and I did win awards there. And I continued that success in my career, and I continued that success and experience in my legislative career. I've been in the House 1 term, and I was elected 2 terms to the Kansas Senate. I am currently the tax chairman of the Kansas Senate, and I work hard for my constituency. I'm very diligent about the time that I spend with my constituents. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Kevin Jones. I'm also running for 2nd District, and I am from Wellsville, Kansas, not too far from here. Yeah, I'm kind of reminiscing because when I first kind of started in politics, I guess you could say, my first elected office was the school board over at USD 289, but my first experience here, I was invited by a sitting commissioner to be on the planning commission, and it was right here. And so I was a planning commissioner and went off about 4 months ago. And so when it comes to this room and a lot of the people here, a lot of you guys are familiar. And I want to just tell you why, personally, I'm running for the 2nd District. And that truly is, I see a lack of true servant leaders in DC. And as I've talked to people from the very bottom of the district to the very top of the district, they say the same exact thing. There's people that are doing it more as a career versus doing it as the way I see it, a deployment. Most of you guys know my bio, or you have it on your seat, because my son Silas, who's in the back, he handed those flyers out, but I'm former military. Is there any former military in here? Thank you very much for your service. I've traveled the district and I've talked to our law enforcement, I've talked to former military, and I've talked to those folks. And one of the main things that we're dealing with is just mental health, opioid, different things falling back on our law enforcement. It's probably one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with right now in the 2nd District. I look forward to talking about that in a little bit.
Thank you. My name is Steve Fitzgerald. I'm not from here. I've never been in this room before. I had a hard time finding it. Once I got in the building. Thank you very much. I do know a few of you, and let me introduce myself to the rest of you. I'm a retired military officer, businessman, and have been in the Kansas Senate for 6 years. I'm running for the United States House in order to rapidly implement the President's agenda that he brought to us and we approved, which is to improve American security and recharge American prosperity. It's extremely important that we do that. And my job with your representative would be to help get that done in Washington. I joined the Army as a private. I graduated as a lieutenant colonel. I served in the infantry in the Green Beret. I spent my time 3 years in the Pentagon, 3 years in the Combined Arms Center up in Leavenworth. And like many of us here, I have served on school board, served in the Kansas Senate, and I have been very careful, as I think most of us have been, to make sure that we do our civic duty. I think we do this out of duty. And I want to thank you for coming out and doing your civic duty to inform yourself and for voting. Do not trust a candidate who never voted before he ran for this office. Thank you.
Test. Is this thing on? My name is Vernon Fields. I am a retired United States Department of Justice employee, or also known as a retired federal law enforcement officer. I am a candidate that had to deal with officers and agencies in a 12-state region, which covered from Los Angeles or California out to Guam. So go from California, take 10 states in. I had to interact with local, federal, and state officers, including elected officials. I am a council member, so I do have a voting record. You have to kind of look for it though, you know what I mean? Have you ever been there? I have a doctorate in criminal justice. I am a PhD criminologist. Recently, Kevin Eichner had called me and asked me to come with him as we did a presentation at Lawrence Memorial Hospital to executive officers there. That is because I'm also a registered nurse with a master's degree in nursing. I am an educator. You heard me talk about Ottawa University. We just recently had a conversation with the National League of Nursing where I was interviewed to see if we could move the program from a bachelor's prepared program to a master's prepared program. I'm still waiting to hear if we were able to move forward. So that ties me in here with this community some. Also, my prior campaign manager, I have to stop. is the pastor at Bethany Church here in town.
Mr. Fitzgerald, I'm going to let you start this first question. You touched on this in your opening comments, and we'll allow every candidate to answer the same question, and we'll go a minute and a half on this question. What do you feel is the biggest threat to national security?
The biggest threat to national security today is the debt. I can back that up. Excuse me. We defeated the Soviet Union with our checkbook. The Soviet Union had arguably the best army, the strongest army. They certainly had a very large tactical air force. They had an extremely large Navy in terms of submarines. I know this because I worked on war plans, and I was responsible for some of that when I was in Europe and when I was in Washington, D.C. What they didn't have was the ability to maintain their economy and keep up with us as we improved the technology that we put out in our defense. And they went broke. It was their debt that brought them down. Greece is going under because of its debt. We see it in many of the various states. The debt is the most important problem that we have. It has to be solved. I spoke about American security and American prosperity. They have to go together. We need American security in order to protect our prosperity, protect our interests so that we can in fact be prosperous in a hostile world. We need our prosperity so we can afford that security that we need for all Americans. So it's the debt. That's the biggest problem that we face towards our security. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Fields, I'll let you address that same question.
As I indicated, I'm law enforcement, so therefore it is going to be security first. I remember looking at the border as part of my job in the Department of Justice when my assignment included California, Arizona, and New Mexico. It is a shocking piece. What I mean by that is I remember in San Diego seeing that we had houses on this side of the border and houses on that side of the border, and we had people that were able to go under tunnels and avoid the fence. So we do need to look at firming up our security worldwide. Now, again, I try not to share a whole lot of this, but my job was also to take care of Tim McVeigh when I was in Colorado. When I got here in Kansas, my job was to make sure that his execution took place. So I'm hard on crime. If you're going to commit crime, then I'm going to continue to fulfill the will of the people by doing as the people has requested. So I'm still sitting as security. Did that shock us a little bit by having the first federal execution since 1961? The answer was yes. But have we seen any other acts like that in our country since? We haven't. So I'm thinking again that our biggest issue is safety and security and making sure that we have enough forces and resources to fulfill that mission.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins.
When you think of national security, I think it's broken. It's typically, by people like me who spend a lot of time thinking about it, it's broken into capability and will. So when you think of capability, you think of, I first think of Russia, which is the only country in the world with the nuclear capability to destroy the United States. However, they lack largely you can say they lack the will. China also has incredible capabilities, but they're what I'd consider to be a rational actor, much to a lesser extent Iran. Now, when you start looking at national security threat to less rational actors, you're looking at North Korea, you're looking at radical Islamic terror, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, and there's a whole collection of them that do everything they can to disrupt U.S. operations in the region. And so, and then when you think about bioterror or cyber terror, you're looking at modalities and not necessarily the actors. They could be state-sponsored or individual actors. So, you know, when I think of national security, I think it will. Let me say, North Korea, as a guy who's been in the business of national security for many years, I look at North Korea and it's always had me very worried based off how they're positioned, both their capabilities to attack allies as well as the will to do so. So that I don't stay up late at night, but that's, if I did, it would be the North Korea.
Karen, go ahead.
Thank you. We have several items that are threatening our security as a nation, not just hostile foreign countries such as China, Russia, North Korea, but also illegal immigration. We need to stop illegal immigration. It is threatening our security. You might not think so simply, but look at the gangs that are coming into our nation. Look at the diseases that they're bringing that we had eradicated as a nation. That is an issue that we need to talk about. Also, cybersecurity. I'm an IT software engineer. A business down in Fort Scott, Kansas, gets a knock on their door. It's the FBI. They had been hacked by a group out of China, and they were using their servers from Fort Scott, Kansas, to bounce to government servers in our nation. We need to stop that. Our legislation needs to catch up with the technology. It is far behind, and we need to address that. That is one of the items that I would work on. There are several other things that I would like to work on for security, and that is supporting our military. We have a president who is finally willing to put the money into our military where it needs to be. That was a major threat to our nation, but this president is taking care of it, and I support that effort, and I will support that as your U.S. Congresswoman.
it was our founders who said that that when it comes to security, America is so strong, it could probably only happen from within. That's what it said. That's what they said. And in today's day and age, I truly believe that the people who have their finger on the pulse of security, of defense, and just of life in our communities really is our local law enforcement. It's our sheriffs. And so I made it a priority to go and to speak with those individuals, and you get to hear a lot of different things from a lot of different areas. Everything from meth. Meth was really, really big issue in our local communities, right? Still is. But now it's not being farmed. It's actually so cheap coming through Mexico that they don't really cook it anymore up here. They just buy it cheap, you know? Everything from human trafficking to just relationships between the police department, the sheriff department, and things like that. Everything tends to fall back on our law enforcement. And that just brings me to mental health. It brings me to the insecurity that we're dealing with in the family unit. The greatest thing that we have in the 2nd District is our families. It's why my parents moved here. When they both graduated college, they got out of the Air Force, they met in the Air Force. So if it wasn't for the Air Force, I wouldn't be alive. And they came back, they came to Layloop, Kansas to raise their children. And they did that because Kansas is the best place for that. And the 2nd District is where they landed.
Thank you. I will start with Mr. Watkins on this question. We'll go 1 minute each. What accomplishment have you achieved that makes you the most qualified to be our U.S. representative?
Thank you. When I look back at my life, I've been blessed. I see, I woke up on 2nd, but I didn't hit a double because I was born in an Air Force base. My first memories were when Dad was stationed at Andrews. They grew up as poor farmers in Holton and Hutchinson, Dad and Mom respectively, and they outfitted me with heartland values that I took forth and helped grow a company, serve 10 years in the military, fought in 2 wars, and started a family. So when I look back, one thing that I always remember is where my values come from. These heartland values of treating people right, working hard, and living with dignity and with God in your heart. They're what has driven me to accomplish the things I have in business and military and in the outdoors Arctic athleticism. So I can't pick one. I'm just going to choose my values.
What makes me the most qualified to be your Congresswoman is my life experience and my legislative experience. Small business owner, rancher, software engineer, and successful legislator. I have had success in the Kansas legislature with working with others, changing the budget process. We have a spend it or lose it attitude in our government. They start with a baseline budget, and if they don't spend it, they lose it by the end of the year. We changed that process in Kansas. We now have a performance-based budget. Also, wasteful spending. When I ran for office, I told you that I would find ways to cut the budget and save the taxpayer money. I did. One of the things I found was $30 million with no oversight in our budget. The legislative research did a paper on this and won a national award for it. I dig in, I read the bills, I look and do my research. And that's what we need, somebody that can get it done.
What qualifies me to be a 2nd District Congressman? I truly believe that the biggest question, well, besides my covenant with my wife, I truly believe that the biggest question that we should be asking ourselves is, how is that person going to handle our money? I used to do the Robert Kiyosaki thing, which means I leverage credit. Then my wife and I had an epiphany, did the Dave Ramsey thing. We cut out 32 credit cards, completely debt-free, bought our house cash in Wellsville and bought another house cash. And by doing that, it's allowed me to be able to serve. We don't have a lot of overhead. We've gotten rid of debt. One of the biggest things that we can do is get rid of debt. We have to put our foot down now, and I will be that candidate. The last thing, and I'm proud of this, is that in my political experience, I have not become a politician, one who uses deception and manipulation to better my career. I see this as a deployment, and I'll get the job done and get right back. Lastly, I pick up my phone.
Thank you for the question. We have expounded on the answers that go a little bit afield from the question on occasion. I'm glad to see that the debt is now the most important problem that we see, and I think that is in fact the case. And I think the most important thing this Congress can do is to help keep down the deficit spending, and help keep us from breaking that debt. We have to reduce it. I've got a breadth of experience, as I mentioned, 20 years in the Army, 11 years with my own business. I'm heavily invested in the future. My wife Francie and I, we've got 5 children, 19 grandchildren. Dedicated myself to serving my fellow citizens, which I've done, and I've done that in a number of ways as Vice President of the school board, as being in Kansas Senate, as being with the Republican Party, and for one thing, I've turned down any capers benefits because I'm not here for anything else than service.
My oath that I took when I was 20 years old, I had just turned 20, maybe 2 months, and I took an oath to serve and protect this country. I continued that oath all the way through my military time and all the way through my Department of Justice time. I've been dedicated to keeping you safe and secure. My regional experiences that I have from having to deal with governments from state to state, as a director would send me out to areas, be it that I end up in Detroit or be it that I end up in Dallas, I have to be able to understand how to interact and gain cooperation from those that I'm working with down there, be it that it's the government official or if it's the criminal, and that's a little easier with the criminal because I can just lock them up. But my values, my character, my integrity, and my personal level of responsibility to you is what I feel will make me the best candidate.
And this will be our last question for each of the candidates, and we'll go 1.5 minutes on this last question. And I'm trying to combine a combination of several questions we've had presented here. So when you think about if you're elected our representative, will you put party over country, or what will you do to make sure you understand the voice of the district that you're representing in Washington? And Karen, I'll start with you, 1.5 minutes.
I'll represent the constituents of the 2nd District much with the same manner that I do my Senate District. I will be involved, I will be engaged, I will listen to my constituents. When I ran for the House for this first time, my platform was limited government, individual freedom, traditional values, and economic development. You can take almost any bill and read that bill and know how I'm going to vote based off that platform. I'm proud to announce there's nobody in this race that's really well known with their names, and so the endorsements are important in this race. I am endorsed by Kansas Farm Bureau, I am endorsed by Kansans for Life, and Susan B. Anthony List, which is another pro-life endorsement, national. I'm endorsed by the Madison Project, which is a national conservative group, Jim Ryan's endorsement. Also, I'm endorsed by, today, we just got the National Association of Kansas Realtors, Maggie's List, which is a fiscal conservative group. My actions, my words back up my actions. I say what I mean, and I mean what I say, and I get it done. We need somebody that is going to take action and get results, not just complain about things, or not just put up their finger in the wind to decide how they're going to vote on policy. We need somebody who's going to be strong for Kansas and strong for the 2nd District, and I am that candidate.
We need somebody who's not in the party of no. We need somebody who will actually be a part of our district, that will call this time, and that when they go to DC, they will see it as a deployment. They'll come back and they'll listen. I have a vision, and I've spoken about it a few different times when I've been out, that just to come back, and we have coffees that we regularly go to, that the chamber sets up and Farm Bureau sets up, but just to come into to a library group and just be there with 5 people, hear their hearts, where they're at, how they're trying to know Wellsville, they're trying to grow the library, trying to raise money. They've been doing it for years and years. So just stopping in, being a part of that community. And that's what's so very important. And when it comes to party over country, no. The party, man, if I could tell you some of the stories. I didn't receive the Kansans for Life endorsement. I've been a co-sponsor on Simon's Law, chief co-sponsor. I have 8 kids. I've prayed at Tiller's Clinic, yet I didn't get the Kansans for Life endorsement. The 3 senators did, but I didn't. And what that means is that a lot of times political correctness is kind of the way that we go. The political correct thing to do is endorse the senators, so when they are back in the House, at least 2 of the 3 will be back in the Kansas State House, that you keep those votes, right? I struggle with political correctness, and the party sometimes struggles with me. But I'll do well to represent the people for the 2nd District.
Thank you very much. First off, I'd like to say that I think it's a shame that Kevin Jones did not get an endorsement from Kansas for Life, and I mean that very sincerely. Few people earn it more than he has. I did get endorsed. I'm very proud of that. I helped to found the Kansans for Life chapter in Leavenworth County a long time ago. I've had a lot of pro-life activity that I've been involved with, and I think that I'm a little bit ashamed that they did not endorse Representative Jones. How to stay in touch with the people. You listen, you talk to them. The main thing is, and I believe that I'm guilty of this more than almost anybody else, I will tell you exactly what I think and how I feel and why I think it. I have been chided for that publicly by a number in the media, but I hope not to be misunderstood, and I would hope to get your reaction to me. I would hope to hear you tell me what you think is needed, and I will listen to that, and we will discuss it. And if we don't agree, I want to know why we disagree, because maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you can make me smarter. And I've had that happen a lot by being very direct, very open, and very straightforward. When people come back and explain to me why they think I'm wrong, very often I find that they've got a very good position and has to be respected as we go forward. Thank you.
First things first. The pastor told me that in church a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking about that, and I began to look at what is the role of the federal government and what is the role of the state government. My job as a congressional member is to represent this district and do the best job I can. As I shared with you earlier, I spent time in different states and had to deal with different elected officials. And I know how touchy they get and how they are in terms of what they want done. Well, what it did for me is it set an excellent example for me in terms of how I'm going to represent people here in Kansas with my whole heart, soul, and mind. Kansas first, Kansas strong. When the director called me in my office in Kansas City and said, "Vernon, you're going to Los Angeles," I said, "Really? I don't want to go there," but I went. And the director sent me there to do one thing, to kind of set a record straight. I walked into the office and someone took the president's picture of the United States and the attorney general picture and turned it around. I walked out of the office, I came back in, and I said, very good. I said, I'm gonna come back in this office, and I expect you guys to show the same respect for that picture as for the person that's serving in the office, or you will be terminated. They got it loud and clear. That's how I would be in terms of representing people in the state of Kansas. I would be clear, I would be complete, I would be concise, I would be compassionate, and you will have no doubt whatsoever where I'm at in terms of, is Kansas first? Yes, Kansas is first.